7 days. That is all it took for everything to shift. Not the circumstances around me, not the people, not the world. What shifted was the one thing I had always overlooked: my internal state, my response, the quiet architecture of my mind. And when that shifted, when I stopped resisting what I could not control and started commanding what I could, the women around me began to respond differently. They leaned in where they used to pull away. They sought my presence where they once dismissed it. This is not about manipulation. This is about alignment with truth. I had spent years chasing external validation, trying to prove my worth through achievement, through being needed, through performing emotions I thought others wanted to see. I was exhausting myself in a game where the rules kept changing because I never understood that the game itself was the problem. The moment I stopped playing, everything changed. The moment I embraced a handful of Stoic principles, not as philosophy to study but as daily practice to embody, my life transformed. And I want to share with you exactly what I did, because if you are willing to commit to these habits for just 1 week, you will see what I saw. You will feel what I felt. The return of your power. Before I go further, if you are someone who values depth over distraction, substance over spectacle, I invite you to subscribe to this channel right now. We are building a community of people who understand that real strength is quiet, real confidence needs no announcement, and real transformation happens in the space between stimulus and response. The first thing I changed was my morning, not with elaborate rituals or productivity hacks, but with a single practice that the Stoics understood 2,000 years ago. I began each day by acknowledging what was within my control and what was not. I stopped trying to control outcomes, other people's opinions, the weather, traffic, the way a conversation might unfold. I released all of it. What remained was a short list: my thoughts, my responses, my effort, my character. That is all. And that is everything. When you wake up and immediately start worrying about things outside your control, you hand your power away before you even leave your bed. You train yourself to be reactive, anxious, at the mercy of external forces. I stopped doing that. Every morning I would sit in silence for 5 minutes and mentally sort my day into 2 columns: what I can control and what I cannot. Then I committed every ounce of my energy to the first column and practiced indifference to the second. The effect was immediate. I stopped being triggered by small things: a delayed message, a change of plans, someone's bad mood. These things that used to derail my entire day suddenly had no power over me because I had decided they were not mine to control. And here is what happened with the women in my life. They noticed. Women are extraordinarily perceptive to emotional state. They can sense when a man is unshaken, not by arrogance, but by genuine internal stability. My sister, who usually could pull me into her drama with a single phone call, suddenly could not. Not because I was cold or dismissive, but because I remained calm. I listened without absorbing her chaos. I offered perspective without needing her to accept it, and something fascinating happened. She started calling me more, not to vent, but to seek counsel. The less I reacted, the more she respected my input. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is not just ancient wisdom. This is the foundation of unshakable presence. When you truly internalize that your peace is not dependent on external conditions, you become a fixed point in a chaotic world. And people, especially women, are drawn to that stability like moths to flame. The second habit I adopted was the practice of negative visualization. Each day, I would spend a few minutes contemplating loss, not in a morbid way, but as a reminder of impermanence. I would imagine losing the things I valued: relationships, health, opportunities. This practice, which the Stoics called premeditatio malorum, did something unexpected. It made me deeply grateful for what I had in the present moment. It removed entitlement. It eliminated the sense that I was owed anything by the universe. And it made me appreciate people while they were still here, rather than taking them for granted until they were gone. There was a woman I had been seeing casually. We had fallen into a pattern where I was always available, always accommodating, always trying to make things work around her schedule. I was operating from a place of scarcity, afraid that if I did not bend, she would leave. The negative visualization practice changed that. I genuinely contemplated her absence. I sat with it, and I realized that while I valued her presence, I would be fine without it. This was not bitterness or detachment. It was freedom. The next time we made plans, I did not rearrange my entire week to fit her availability. I offered what worked for me, and if it did not align, I was at peace with that. Her response was revelatory. Instead of pulling back, she adjusted her schedule. She started initiating more. The energy shifted entirely because I had stopped clinging. This is something most people misunderstand about Stoicism and attraction. They think detachment means coldness. It does not. It means freedom from desperate need. Women do not want to be needed in that suffocating way. They want to be chosen by someone who is whole, someone who would be fine alone but prefers their company. That distinction is everything. When you practice negative visualization, you release the grip of attachment. You stop trying to control outcomes. And paradoxically, you become far more attractive because your presence is no longer heavy with unspoken demands. The third habit was the discipline of voluntary discomfort. I started doing things that were uncomfortable on purpose. Cold showers, fasting until noon, sitting with boredom instead of reaching for my phone, saying no when I wanted to say yes just to avoid conflict. These small acts of self-discipline were not about punishment. They were about training. Every time you choose discomfort voluntarily, you expand your capacity to handle discomfort when it is involuntary. You build resilience. You prove to yourself that you are not a slave to every impulse, every craving, every fear. I remember a specific moment at a social gathering. A woman I was interested in was there, and in the past, I would have orbited around her all evening, trying to manufacture opportunities to talk, to impress, to be noticed. This time, I did the uncomfortable thing. I largely ignored her. Not rudely, but I did not seek her out. I engaged with other people. I was present where I was, not constantly scanning the room for her location. And about an hour in, she approached me. She initiated. And the conversation was different because I was not performing. I was just there, grounded in myself. And that created a magnetic pull that my previous needy behavior never could. Let me paint 3 specific scenes that illustrate how Stoic practice intersects with female psychology in ways that most men completely miss. Scene 1. A woman tests your frame with an emotional outburst. Maybe she is upset about something you did, or something you did not do, or something that has nothing to do with you but she is displacing onto you. The typical male response is either to become defensive and argue back, or to immediately apologize and try to fix her emotions. Both responses fail. The Stoic response is different. You remain calm. You let her express what she needs to express without absorbing it as an attack on your identity. You might say something simple like, "I can see you are upset. Help me understand what is really going on," and then you listen. You do not react. You do not defend. You do not try to logic her out of her feelings. You hold space. What happens next is crucial. In almost every case, her emotional intensity decreases. Not because you gave her what she wanted, but because you did not give her the reaction she was subconsciously testing for. You demonstrated that you cannot be shaken. That your inner calm is not dependent on her approval, and in that moment, her respect for you deepens. This has happened to me repeatedly since adopting this practice. Arguments that used to escalate now de-escalate within minutes because I refuse to match emotional intensity with emotional intensity. Scene 2. A woman you are interested in suddenly becomes distant. She takes longer to respond to messages. She is less available. The old version of me would panic. I would double text. I would ask what was wrong. I would try to pull her back in with more attention, more effort, more display of interest. This is the exact opposite of what works. The Stoic approach is to notice the distance, accept it as information, and continue living your life with purpose. You do not withdraw out of spite or game playing. You simply redirect your energy to what you can control, which is your own growth. your own projects, your own well-being. You give her space without making it a statement. And more often than not, that space is exactly what was needed. She comes back. Not always, but often enough that the pattern is clear. And when she does, you do not punish her or ask where she has been. You welcome her back with the same calm presence you maintained in her absence. This communicates something powerful, that you are not shaken by her fluctuations, that your value is not determined by her attention, that you are a man with options, internal and external, who chooses her but does not need her. Scene 3. You are in a relationship and the woman you are with tries to create drama over something minor. She picks a fight about the dishes, or something you said 3 days ago, or the way you looked at someone. This is often not really about the surface issue. It is a test of your emotional leadership. Can you remain the stable one when she is destabilized? Can you hold the frame when she is pushing against it? The Stoic move is to not take the bait. You acknowledge her concern without validating the drama. You might say, I hear that this bothered you, and I want to understand, but I am not going to argue about it. When you are ready to have a calm conversation, I am here. Then you go back to what you were doing. You do not chase her. You do not plead. You do not get pulled into the emotional whirlpool. You remain grounded. And what happens almost every time is that within an hour, sometimes less, she softens. She comes back. Sometimes she even apologizes. Because you passed the test. You demonstrated that you are not controlled by her emotional state, that you have a center that holds, and that is deeply attractive on a primal level that most dating advice completely misses. If you are finding value in this, do me a favor and hit the like button. It helps more people discover this content, and I genuinely want to reach those who are ready to hear it. Also, if you want to go deeper into Stoic principles applied to modern relationships, check out my video on emotional resilience. I will link it in the description. Now let me talk about the power transfer that happens when you embody these habits. This is where theory becomes practice. This is where philosophy becomes tangible change in your interactions. The power transfer is not about dominating others. It is about reclaiming dominion over yourself. And when you do that, the social dynamics around you naturally shift. Your actions must align with your stated values. One of the core Stoic principles is integrity, the alignment between word and deed. If you say you value your time, then you must act like it. If someone repeatedly disrespects your boundaries, you must be willing to walk away, not in anger but in calm self-respect. I had a friend who would cancel plans last minute constantly. For months, I tolerated it because I did not want to create conflict. But tolerating disrespect is not Stoic, it is weak. So I had a direct conversation. I told him that I valued our friendship, but I also valued my time. And if he could not commit to plans with reasonable certainty, I would stop making them. He was taken aback, but he respected it. And our friendship actually improved because I had established a clear boundary. Women notice this. They notice when a man has standards and enforces them calmly. It signals self-respect, which is the foundation of all attraction. Your language must be deliberate. Stop using weak qualifiers. Stop saying, I think maybe we could possibly, when you mean we should do this. Stop apologizing for having opinions. Stop using uptalk that turns statements into questions. The Stoic speaks with quiet certainty, not because he is arrogant, but because he has thought through his positions and stands behind them. I started noticing how often I would soften my language to avoid potential conflict or to seem more agreeable. I stopped. If I believed something, I stated it clearly. If I did not know, I said I did not know. If I disagreed, I said so respectfully but directly. The change in how people responded was dramatic. I was taken more seriously. My ideas were given more weight. And women responded to this confidence, this willingness to take a clear position with increased attraction and respect. Your posture must reflect your internal state. The body and mind are not separate. If you walk hunched over, eyes down, taking up minimal space, you are signaling low status and low confidence to everyone around you, including yourself. The Stoic stands upright, not in forced military stiffness, but in natural alignment. Shoulders back, chest open, head level. You move deliberately, not rushed, not sluggish. You take up space without apology, but also without aggression. When you sit fully. When you stand, you plant your feet. These are not trivial adjustments. They fundamentally alter how you feel and how others perceive you. I made a conscious effort to correct my posture every time I noticed it slipping. Within days, I felt different, more grounded, more present, and the women I interacted with responded to this physicality. Attraction is largely nonverbal, and posture communicates volumes about your internal state. Your presence must be undivided. In every interaction, be fully there, not checking your phone, not scanning the room, not half listening while planning what you will say next. The Stoic practice of presence is simple but rare. When someone is speaking to you, give them your complete attention. This alone sets you apart in a world of distracted, anxious people. I noticed that when I practiced this with women, they would comment on it. They would say things like, "I feel really heard when I talk to you," or "You make me feel like I am the only person in the room." This was not a technique. This was the natural result of being present. And presence creates intimacy faster than any clever line or strategy ever could. The emotional close of this transformation is what matters most. After 1 week of these practices, I did not become a different person. I became more myself. I shed the layers of reactivity, neediness, and people-pleasing that had obscured who I actually was. The women in my life did not respond to some new manipulative tactic. They responded to authenticity backed by discipline. They responded to calm in a world of chaos. They responded to a man who knew what he could control and released what he could not. There is a subtle but profound shift that happens when you live this way. You stop seeking validation because you validate yourself through your actions. You stop fearing rejection because you have faced voluntary discomfort and know you can handle it. You stop trying to force outcomes because you trust the process of showing up as your best self and letting the results unfold. And in that space of non-attachment, you become magnetic. Not to everyone, but to the right people. To women who are looking for substance, to women who are tired of boys pretending to be men, to women who recognize that real strength is quiet, real confidence needs no announcement, and real attraction is built on respect. I want to leave you with this. The habits I have described are simple but not easy. They require daily commitment. They require you to go against your conditioning, against the voice that says comfort is king, against the impulse to react instead of respond. But if you give this 1 week, truly commit to these Stoic principles for 7 days, you will see changes. Not magic, not overnight transformation, but real, tangible shifts in how you feel and how others respond to you. You will reclaim your power. You will stop being tossed by every wave of external circumstance. You will become the kind of man who does not need to announce his value because it radiates from every choice he makes. If this resonates with you, if you are committed to this path of depth and discipline, subscribe to this channel. We are just getting started. Next week, I am releasing a video on how to maintain Stoic calm in moments of intense emotional pressure. The exact techniques that have saved me from countless regrettable reactions. You will not want to miss it. Thank you for your time and attention. Now go practice. 1 week. See what happens. I will see you in the next one.